Good morning, folks, and welcome into the Tailgate brought to you by campus2canton.com. Austin Nace, Matt Bruning here this morning. And no, we did not call each other before the show this morning and ask what we were wearing. So stop asking us. Asking us. It didn't happen. You can't really tell because of the lower third, but we're wearing the exact same sweatshirt here.
Yeah. Oh, but by the way, when we were talking this morning, yes, I did actually think the same thing about that Clemson-Louisville game. So,
yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. I was just reiterating that we did talk on the phone. We just didn't talk about the same hoodies. Wearing the same hoodies. Yeah. Gotcha. We were FaceTiming though, so I did see what Austin was wearing before I got dressed.
Well, I was still cozy in bed during our chat, No, actually, I got up this morning. So I live in Pittsburgh, for anybody who doesn't know, and I live, for anybody familiar with Pittsburgh's geography and topography, I think is the correct terminology. I live up on the mountain. Walked over to the Overlook this morning and could look down at game day. And so actually, here's how this morning is going to go, guys, because Matt and I are the only two here, and we just are not the start-sit experts. Like, we can go by our rankings. We've got our intuition. We're not Chris Moxley. Show's going to be a little shorter this morning. I think hour 15, we're going to get out of here. And then I might run over to game day and just, run up on stage. If you see a shirtless guy run up and try to grab Reese Davis right around the end of the show, it might be me. So I would tune in over there after we're done here. But yeah, we're still going to do everything that we usually do on the show, guys. Just tough to fill 2 hours with two people. So onward and upward from there. And welcome. And as always, drop your start-sit questions into the chat here. We'll get to them as we go. We're going to dip into our rankings, our underdog plays. Just going to pick some games. We've got Debbie watch. We've got some injury stuff. We've got a loaded show here for you today. So let's I do just want to talk a little bit about that Oregon game last night though, Matt. It really wasn't that close. Final score, I turned it off in like the beginning of the fourth quarter, 42-13 was the final there. A good night for the offense. I think for Oregon, they kind of needed it. They've struggled lately, albeit with lots of rain and weird weather and all that kind of stuff. Dante Moore threw for 300 yards. The running backs did their thing. A bunch of guys had touchdowns. A bunch of guys, averaged 8 yards a carry. And Sadiq with DeCorian out, with Gary Bryan out. Yeah, obviously Evan Stewart's still out, has been out all season. They kind of prioritized him, it felt like, in the play calling for the first, maybe second time this season. They really haven't done a lot of that. Just thoughts on that first, I think. I mean, Sadiq, I know this sounds like really stupid because he is, I think, the top rated tight end by most people in C2Cs and Debbie and all that kind of stuff. And probably a first round pick this year. But like, is it like Kenyon Sadiq league winner after really not being very impressive all year?
I mean, it's possible if they continue to do this the rest of the season. I mean, he had 96 yards and a touchdown yesterday. If you're looking at, I would imagine most of us probably play in PPR league, so 8 catches as well. Like, he had himself a 27.6 game yesterday, which is obviously amazing for a tight end. He had the 8 targets as well. I mean, he's had a decent amount of targets in some of those other games. So yeah, if they continue to lean on him that way through the rest of the season, I think absolutely, because Oregon's schedule is
hard.
not.
I know they have USC and Washington left. I don't know if there's another one in there, but
it's just USC Washington, which I think it's fair to say both of those secondaries probably don't scare you in any kind of way. And I also don't think either one of those teams really bring pressure that they'll put on Dante Moore that will possibly cause him maybe some issues. That's kind of where we've seen more struggle this year, is when he really gets that pressure on him. I don't see that coming from USC or Washington. I mean, USC's ranked. It's going to be a big game for USC next weekend because if they win that, they're probably trending toward a playoff team, where Oregon will still be a playoff team, I think, even if they lose that one. So I do think that will be a tough game. But again, if they're going to make Sadiq the focal point, specifically of the passing offense, I think there's a realistic shot he's a league winner.
We don't need to talk playoff implications on this show. We do that enough on C2C Live during the week. I think if USC wins that game, though, Oregon would be in some serious trouble, because they wouldn't have the Big Ten championship game. Their biggest win would be Iowa.
Oh, probably, Iowa. Yeah, because they lost to Indiana. So Iowa.
I mean, I do kind of think Oregon has a pretty narrow. Like, if they lose the rest of the season, they might be in some trouble depending on what happens with some other teams. But we don't need to get too far into that here.
We'll save that for Wednesday. Turn into C2C Live, and maybe we'll preview some of that game as well and talk about it.
Exactly. All right. Clemson, Louisville. I mean, Clemson won last night. I don't know if there's a lot to really discuss on that game.
There's only one thing to discuss from that game. Two, actually. One, I knew I should have taken Miller Moss's under on passing yards on Underdog or lower on Underdog. I did not, which I'm upset about. But secondly, they're frauds. And I showed that in my top 25 rankings on Wednesday night on C2C Live.
That is literally the first thing I thought of when that game went final. I was like, oh man, that was
they're fraud
right on that one. So
I can say that. I can say fraudulent a lot since Chris Moxley is not here. But anyways.
Just tossing the F word around casually, No, not that F word. No, not that one either.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't.
Yes,
I can't.
Yes.
I've used that up already twice. The first 2 times Chris K showed up on C2C Live. So I'm out. No more cursing this year.
Yeah, if you've used all your uses there. Got some people in the chat already hopping in. Andy, Brett, good morning. Cooper says, do we have any word on Jaden Thomas's status at UNLV backfield and getting it done for me? Nothing yet. He's questionable. I think that means he probably goes, but obviously going to be one that we'll be paying attention to here over the next hour or so. We already do have actually quite a bit of injury roundup. Do we want to just hit on some of this at the beginning of the show and then we can wrap it? I mean, we've got a ton of them here. Let's see here. I tell Matt I went on a very long walk this morning and just did injury roundup stuff for anybody. So a couple of the ones we have right now. Nico Iamalieva has been ruled out, which was a bummer because I had an underdog play for him today that I really liked. So I had to pivot on that one. An under, of course, or a lower than. Jonah Coleman is going to be available for Washington today, but Ad Muhammad is going to start. And I don't know how much, because he's available, what that actually means in terms of what he's going to get. I think we're both in agreement, Matt. We probably wouldn't play Jonah Coleman.
Yes, I would not. No, I
would. Denzel Boston ruled out. So that whole Washington offense, I guess Damon and Roebuck, I guess, are the only guys you're rolling out there today. We actually do have Muhammad ranked fairly aggressively. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Elijah Surratt, doubtful. So, do with that what you will. Evan Pryor is out. So maybe a Tawi Walker week there. Garrett Nussmeier out, and that might be a rest of season shutdown thing. Brett Norfleet is playing today. And then Mario Craver was upgraded from a true game time decision to a probable designation, I believe I saw. So he's trending to play today for Texas A&M. Do you have any others, Matt? Those are the ones that I just saw this morning as I was kind of looking through.
I will keep monitoring that. I've not seen any others. But yeah, on the Washington one specifically, I think definitely Demond and Roebuck with, they're going up against Purdue, who has been a little bit of a team that can.
They have a bottom 30 pass defense in most metrics.
I'm just saying they've found a way to at least battle with some teams, and Washington's offense has kind of struggled the past couple of weeks. But I think you would still feel pretty good about playing both of those guys.
I just think you have to. I think you have to. Yeah. John is here. Good morning, John. We were talking about you, John, because you went to that UConn game. Was that last week we were checking in and they pulled that one out against you?
Yeah.
We were talking about you on College Fantasy Tonight last week. Gave you a shout out. So hope that was an exciting one there for you, because we know you were at the game. All right, let's get into this week's rankings here while we're at it. And we always start with quarterback, so that's where we'll start today. Alonzo Barnett's been up here at the top the past few weeks, or right around there. He is our top QB today. I guess worth mentioning that the guys that have already played, we have removed already. So Colton Joseph was up here too. But he's already played. Haynes King at number 2, Byron Brown at 3. Marcel Reed 4th, Liam Zarka 5th, Anthony Calandria 6th, Devin Dampier 7th, Damon Williams, we were just talking about him at 8 there, and good matchup against Purdue. Nick Minacucci at 9 against Sam Houston. Man, Matt, if they put you and I back there at corner, would we be doing better than the Sam Houston corners this year?
With my hamstring, probably not. But healthy Matt, yes, I think so. Yeah, healthy Matt, I think so. I think I could cover someone for a good 2.5 seconds.
Old man Bruning popped a hammy this week, so he's
not been pleasant.
Owen McCown here at 10, Julian Sayin, Brendan Sorsby, Trinidad Chambliss, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, and Taylor Green round out the top 15 here, Matt. We already talked about about Williams. That's a really juicy matchup there. I think, Minacucci against Sam Houston just lets you kind of do whatever you want. There's no real resistance there. One of the interesting ones here to me is Marcel Reed.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina has been pretty tough defensively this year, even though, you know, I would expect A&M to win this game. I would expect them to win it somewhat comfortably. I do think that's an interesting one, though, and one that could potentially, like some of the guys that are directly behind him, I might be more interested in playing. I mean, I probably would still start Marcel Reed. I just, you know, if you've got an embarrassment of riches, that might be a guy that I'm looking at to potentially sit this week if I have some really good options.
Do you know where Marcel Reed ranks right now in quarterbacks?
It's high, right?
It's 12.
Like on the season?
On the season, yeah.
Yeah.
He's just been I was pulling his scores up because again, like we've talked about it, I'm sure more on C2C Live than obviously on the tailgate. Like we were hesitant of what Reed was going to be as the Aggie starter because of, you know, what we had saw last year. And we talked about how much he's progressed, but the last couple games, 25, 43, 40, 25. Like he's only had honestly one bad game. It was a game against Auburn where he only had 6 points, which was just a horrible game to begin with, right? I think that was a game that ended 16-10 or something like that. It was not an offensive explosion where the rest of the season, I mean, he's been absolutely amazing. So yeah, he's having a great season. I think I'd start him regardless. I don't disagree that South Carolina game is going to be tough. They are going into College Station. That was actually the game that Felix and I were supposed to be at today. So I think that A&M is going to handle business there. I think it could end up being a little bit of a shootout with, as you mentioned, not this morning, but previously, how the Aggies defense has kind of given up a little bit more over the past couple of weeks. So I think Lenore Sellers could keep South Carolina in this game, which also then would force Reed to play a little bit more, I don't want to say loosely, but at least score a little bit more fantasy points. So the rushing touchdowns have helped him out a lot too this year.
For sure. Oh, we've got the peanut gallery in the chat here. Chris Moxley, show yourself. You're hiding somewhere here. Let's see here. Andy is said deciding on which two QBs to start between Calandria, Minicucci, and Horvath. It's a 4-point passing TD league. Blake is questionable, but averages more points per game in our scoring format. It's a good question. Horvath is in the next. Is on the next grouping here, and I do wonder if last week was kind of we're probably not situated to beat Notre Dame. Let's let Blake sit and get a little healthier is almost what it felt like to me without any sort of actual information on that. Now, USF's front seven is nothing to mess with. They're pretty good. Minicucci for me is a must of that group. And then I think with 4-point passing TDs, it makes that second one tight. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I'd still probably lean Calandria, but it's close. I mean, I don't disagree with you, especially with, as you just mentioned, with Minicucci going up against that, the secondary, how much he should be able to do in that game. I mean, Horvath is having a really good year, and I don't disagree with you. I don't think you can take anything away from that game against Notre Dame. He just doesn't have as many passing touchdowns, though, right? Like a lot of his is rushing, so
which is cool because it's 4-point passing. Like that I think that steers it toward, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My bad. I'd probably go Horvath then actually over Calandria slightly because I mean I'm looking right now. Everything is saying he's expected to play today. So I don't know what time does that Navy game kick off?
That's a good question too.
What time those games kick off? Maybe
noon.
If we can just watch that.
They're in noon.
So I assume
I'm
UNLV
assuming
is
UNLV is later. Yeah, 7.
Well, I mean, so then what I would do, CFB Andy, is I would lean Horvath and Minicucci. And then if you start, we'll obviously, if we get anything on here while you're watching, we'll update. But if there's something being reported that Horvath might not be the starter, he's still a little bit banged up, then I would just pivot to Calandria at that point. But I would roll with Horvath and Minicucci then, especially with Horvath, being one of the best there with that format.
Yeah, it's definitely a tight one though. I don't think there's any bad options in that group. Daniel says rolling with Fagano and Veltkamp in a must win. Big sad for Adam Randall on my bench though. Yeah. You never know the weeks that Adam Randall is gonna do something.
Yeah.
can't beat yourself up too bad on that one, I think. So, all right, let's see here. Any other thoughts on this top grouping, man? I mean, this group feels very chalky to me. I will say I don't think there's a lot of or really anything here that's super surprising overall. It's a lot of soft matchups. I mean, I guess Kalen Green's an interesting one there against LSU. LSU's defense has been pretty good. Obviously,
LSU's defense, yeah, they have been good, but I think the rushing side is what's going to keep him in there.
I was going to say his value isn't in the passing anyway, so
no, I mean, I think all these are pretty chalky. I mean, the one that is somewhat interesting to me, I feel like this could be at least a little bit of a letdown game for them is Ole Miss when Trinidad Chamblee's there, just because Florida has not been. I mean,
quit watch, man. Quit watch. They got whooped last week by Kentucky.
I know, but their defense overall throughout the season has been decent. Now, again, it's just the Egg Bowl next week, so maybe, or no, it's actually, I think they have a bye week, so never mind. It's not going to be
Egg Bowl's usually Thanksgiving, right?
It is, yeah, Thanksgiving. Yeah, so they're actually off next week, so never mind. There is no there is no look ahead. I doubt they're looking 2 weeks ahead at a Mississippi State team who's also surprised some people here. They're 5-5 in the SEC.
Yeah, they're not bad
on the season. They're not. Everybody was projecting them to maybe not even win a game. So I'm still starting him. But that would be the only one that worries me a little bit. Because I do think Florida's defense, as McCorkey11 here has said, or Mr. Koki.
That's Meth Labs.
Oh, Meth Labs. Okay, I'm gonna call you Meth Labs, Mr. Koki.
I know a Meth Lab when I see one.
I mean, he's not wrong. Florida's defense has still been pretty good. So
they got blasted last week. I don't know.
It's just last week though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's just last week.
What have you done for me lately, but not that lately?
Trust me, I'm aware of. I've had that conversation a lot lately. But I mean, realistically, they've kind of kept everyone close. I think the only one that's really been that bad is probably the Texas A&M game, 34-17. They've been in most of the games. Their defense has been pretty good.
Yeah, we've got people in the chat asking, has Florida quit?
We'll find out today.
I don't know. Right? I will honestly say I don't know that they've quit per se, but I definitely think that you go into some self-preservation mode at this point. Tank Hawkins is sitting out the rest of the year to preserve his red shirt. I think there was another guy that I saw this week is going to do that. I know Dallas Wilson, is injured and done for the year. How injured, or is he preserving his red? I mean, there's a lot of that going on. So that very well could be. Maybe quit's not the right word. I don't want to assign, nefarious, intentions to these kids. I don't know any of them, but it does feel like there's some quit watch going on there a little bit. So.
Yeah. Also, yes, they got blasted by Kentucky last week. Lagway threw 4 interceptions or 3, so that didn't help either. I'm aware. We should have talked about that on C2C Live. Yeah. We kind of skipped past that one. Will he start today? Many are asking.
I may or may not have a lower play on him later in this show. So I went heavy on the lowers this week. I had some.
I gave you one
picked out.
I gave you one.
I was proud of you. It's very on brand for you too. I saw that and just couldn't help but smile a little bit as I saw that. All right, here's our 16 through 30. I know someone was saying Fagano and what's his name? The dude from FAU, but at least Fagano's on here. Jade Mayava, Joey Aguilar, Jake Retzloff, Drew Mestamaker, Blake Horvath, Brad Jackson, Sawyer Robertson, Fernando Mendoza, JC French, Ty Simpson, Bear Bachmeyer, Bryson Barnes, Avery Johnson, and then Skylar Locklear for UTEP there against Missouri State. I do think there's that Ty Simpson kind of stuck out to me. I think there's a real chance that this is just like a stone fight today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree. Oklahoma's defense has been good, and I do think that they're going to try and control the clock a little bit with that run game. Obviously, the one thing I think with Alabama where they might struggle coming into this game is they are very one-dimensional. They have not been able to get the run game going at all this year, which means they're going to continue to try to rely heavily on Ty Simpson. And that is one thing, again, that Brent Venables has been amazing at his entire career in college football, going all the way back to his time as defensive coordinator Clemson, and I can't remember where he was right before Clemson, but he has done a very good job of when he's needed to kind of buckle down that defense and keep the game tight. And I think they will be able to do that here, despite all the weapons Ty Simpson has on the outside, and Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, and how good he has been playing so far this year. I do think Oklahoma is going to be able to keep this game close. I do think this is going to be, because even last week, it was not super impressive for Alabama versus LSU. And I think Oklahoma's defense is at least on par with that. And I don't think their secondary is quite as good. LSU has a really, really good secondary, but I think Oklahoma's overall defense is very much on par with LSU's, maybe even a little bit better. So I do think that this is going to be a tight game for Alabama, Oklahoma.
And Matt, just to, we can complete the circle there. Brent Venables at Oklahoma, and before that he was at Clemson. Before that, he was at Oklahoma. So the answer was right there for you.
Oh, that's what I figured, but I didn't want to say that. Because obviously I knew that was one of the main reasons he went back. But I was like, I can't remember if he was at Oklahoma right before Clemson or not. So
Yep. That was where he was hanging out before that. Let's see here. And I think I kind of agree with you. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. Pointum in the chat says, wouldn't have McCown in top 15, a bit one-dimensional, could just be a Henry game taking on Charlotte there. Yeah, it's a good point. I don't necessarily disagree that that's a possibility. I will just say that I don't think Robert Henry has had more than like 15 carries in a game in like a month and a half. They just that hasn't been a thing that they've been doing lately. So I do still have some confidence that McCown and that passing attack are going to get you some points in this one. Maybe its ceiling's a little capped because Charlotte's not going to also score 40, but there is that. So. Let's see.
He has only had one, I think.
Yeah, he had 16 against Tulane. I figured of course, as soon as I said that, and then quickly brought it up. But hey, I mean, it's at 12, 12, 12, 16, 10.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been. And in fairness to Robert Henry, it's practically always a Robert Henry game, no matter what. Like he's usually fairly good.
Yeah. Although again, not quite as strong as he was over at the top of the season.
Yeah.
I think in terms of some guys like Avery Johnson, there's some nuclear upside there for him taking on Oklahoma State today. That, I mean, very, very little resistance out of them in most situations. I think that's kind of the one that I was kind of looking at here and circling. I think the rest of this feels, again, just kind of chalky. Mayov at 17 is an interesting one. And then we're going to pick games later. I'm a little tempted to take Iowa at least to cover. I think it's like a 6.5 point spread right now. It's in USC. Iowa defense pretty good though. I think if you've got some of these options that are right behind him, I would probably feel better maybe rolling them out there over him.
Yeah, I would as well. I mean, the thing with Mayava is I think he could be fine, but the one thing we've seen from him is he does have those games where he will tend to try and force some throws, and then he ends up with 2 or 3 interceptions. Even though this is Iowa, going on the road, as you mentioned, to USC, I think this could be one of those games. Like Iowa is going to be able to pressure him. I mean, they played Fernando Mendoza fairly tight, who I think overall is not unfair to say is just an overall better quarterback than Jaden Mayava. And again, I understand it was Indiana going into Iowa, and that's still a big game.
Dante Moore anyways, too, but last week or two. I mean, again, weather, but
Yeah, but I mean, again, still I don't disagree. Like they've been able to really, I mean, nobody's really blown them out. Like they've been in every single game. I mean, they were obviously beat Penn State, which was that. That was before. No, that was Grunkmeyer's first game, right? I can't remember if that was.
It was post collapse.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, obviously we didn't get a chance to see them play like Julian Sayin and Ohio State to see what that's like, but I would definitely be hesitant to play Mayava against that defense today.
Yep, agreed. Need to start 2 for Tadpole out of Heinschel, Mayava, Darius Mensah, and Bailey. Any thoughts there, Matt? I do think Pitt's going to chuck the ball around a ton today. If you're just seeking out volume, that not to like be the Pitt guy, but that could be interesting with him and potentially Mensah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think, obviously there's some concern because the Notre Dame defense is still somewhat good, but we have seen teams that are willing to pass the ball on them. And it was earlier in the season. Who was it they played a couple weeks ago, actually, that was it Boston College that almost came back and beat them? Like Notre Dame's defense is a little bit susceptible.
It wasn't really Like it was just tight for most of the game.
Oh
It
yeah,
did end
sorry,
up
yeah,
kind
tight,
of
yeah.
breaking away at the end. But yeah, what was Boston College? I think they were either like slightly down or like tied or whatever, like close at halftime. And yeah.
I think if it was me, I'd because I could see Maava having a really good day. It's really hard with that Iowa defense. If I had to pick two, and you've already said you're not going to start Maava in the weather, I'd probably go Mensa and Heinschel because I don't love Bailey going up against that Miami defense, and Miami has to win the rest of the season, even attempt to make the playoffs. So I think that they're going to really kind of try to lock certain things down. So if I had to pick two out of those, I would go Mensa and Heinschel.
I would to Mensa. They take on Virginia today. I think that's an excellent matchup. And then Bailey against Miami. I think that's a tougher matchup. I don't love that for him today. Bailey but yeah, I don't love that for him. The saving grace potentially for Bailey, I think it sounds like Smothers is going to play. I think he's listed as questionable, but I think he's expected to play. If they're not feeling super comfortable with giving Smothers a ton of touches, maybe Bailey also just throws the ball 40 times. But they're all just to give her, because none of them are on this graphic. This was actually a weird week where like none of the top 30 hardly played. It was like Navarro and Joseph were the only two guys or something that I think we pulled out of here. Mensa's 34th ranked at the position this week with 25.4 points. Bailey is 39th with 24.6. And Heinschel is 47th with 23.67. So they're all, I would say pretty close for me, Mensa Heinschel, but just because of the sheer volume, I think those two are going to see today. But I think that's a tight group. And again, I think we ruled out Mayava earlier in the discussion. All right, let's go to running back here. Let's see what we've got going on at running back. Caleb Hawkins come on down. RB1 projected this week, taking on UAB there. Jeremiah Love at 2. Just disrespectful. Cameron Cook at 3. Ahmad Hardy at 4. Dalen Smothers, again, expected to play today against Miami. We have him ranked pretty highly at 5 here. Jordan Marshall at 6. Robert Henry, we're talking about, Robert Henry and that UTSA offense. Room for everybody today against Charlotte. Kawan Lacey, Jaquel Middlebrook, who is apparently Collins' guy, amongst others. Evan Dickens at 10 here for Liberty. Anthony Hankerson, Lincoln Pear, Deshaun Bishop, Seth McGowan, and Adam Muhammad, who we kind of briefly were touching on earlier today when we were talking about some of the injury watch stuff early in the show, is apparently starting. Jonah Coleman is available. With Coleman being available, does that change your opinion on Muhammad today? To me, not really, because they have several talented backs. I was never under the impression this was going to be like a 80%, 90% backfield to Muhammad today. But just the matchup, I don't think Coleman takes a lot away from that.
No, I mean, at this point, I think, especially with the way he got banged up in the game last week, I would be pretty confident rolling Muhammad out there. Again, they're going up against Purdue. I think that he's going to get a bulk of the carries. There's no real reason for them to force Coleman out there. This is a matchup they should win. Obviously, they're kind of out of the playoff race now with that loss last week. But I would not be surprised if it's still a like a rivalry matchup for them in that final week against Oregon. They would be more than happy to kind of drop them down a peg. I don't know, they would knock them out of the playoff race unless they lost to USC. So that is still a very big matchup for them coming up in a couple weeks. I think that they're kind of trying to load up for that. So yeah, I would feel very comfortable playing Adam Muhammad today against Purdue.
I would too. And it does feel like the Coleman thing, like he's available just in case poop hits the fan.
Yeah.
And
or if like multiple running backs get injured. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, we got to put him in there because we just lost Muhammad and whoever else got injured as well. So let's get Coleman out there just to have a running back out there.
Yeah. Or they've just been crazy ineffective or whatever. Yeah. That's what that feels like to me. I honestly would be shocked if we see, this is a totally arbitrary number, more than 5 touches for Coleman. Mm-hmm. More than 7 touches for Coleman. I can't see him getting much more than that. That even that feels like maybe, like, I think there's a greater chance that we get 0 or 1 than we get 5 or 7 personally. Just kind of my read on that situation. There are some softer matchups, I think, this week at the top here that I a lot of these guys are really, I think, going to be fun this week. Just across the board here, there's some really interesting ones. And some of these SEC schools play their kind of joke matchup this week. So the Tennessee offense, the Kentucky offense, can't believe I said that, might score some points this week. Cutter Boley, man, Cutter Boley.
He hasn't been bad.
No, I mean, who would have thought that bringing in what's his name, former Texas A&M, former Incarnate Word, that they brought out of the portal this year to be their starting quarterback. His name has totally gone out of the back of my head. But
talking about their oh gosh, Kentucky's offensive coordinator?
No, they're the QB they brought in this year that has been terrible as like his entire FBS career, and they brought him in, and of course he was terrible there.
Oh yeah, I can't remember now. I have no idea.
Yeah, name is totally out of my head. I'm sure somebody in the chat will
Zach Calzada. Zach Calzada.
Yes,
he used to flash the money thing. That's what it was. I was trying to remember what it was. He flashed the money sign to a fan or something, or did the.
He had like cash in like a video and was like flashed, he had like it fanned out, and he's like, "Look at all the money that I made this year." Like,
I mean, good on him, I guess.
Yeah. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
That's how the saying goes. Yes, that is what players usually say. Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Luckily for me, I'm a hater, so I can hate both. And
you are
onward and upward from there. It just opens up so many more possibilities in life when you're a hater.
It really does. It really does.
It's way much more fun.
I think it keeps you young too, right? Because you're just always so just ready to go,
You're absorbing everybody else's life energy that you're beating down. Oh yeah, I'm gonna live to 130.
I'm happy for you. The rest of us are stressed out, gray hairs, getting injured all the time, losing our hair. It's insane. I need to be a hater, I think.
Do you think that like being a grump, like not an angry person, but just like a slightly negative person, like it tends to lead to a longer life?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why they always have the it's the get off my lawn guys. But those are the guys that are always around. The happier guys, it seems like they're gone early.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. Everybody tells you to be happy, but it really feels like those negative people are the ones who are making it in life.
Yes, 100%. I don't know if I should say this live into a microphone on a show. We'll skip.
Okay, yeah. We'll talk.
I have somebody who's very close to me.
There.
I would say I just have somebody who's very close to me, and that's as specific as I want to get about my relationship with this person, who had 4 grandparents when we met, and now only has 1, and it's the one that's left is the by far angriest one of the group.
Yeah, so, it makes sense, man.
And that's as specific as I can be here today. So
drives a lot of people.
Maybe there's something to that. Yeah. Once you hit a certain point in life. All right. I mean, Hawkins RB1.
Yeah. Oh man, he's just been phenomenal. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. I think I picked him up in a lot of my leagues late, or not.
I know you're a Hawkins guy. Like you have a lot of him. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's incredible. Go ahead.
There was a lot of discussion this week. So like I know Felix Sharp, who helped found the company here, and some others. Some discussion about whether you would move Caleb Hawkins right now for a 2026 first round supplemental draft pick.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Right now, so it would really, really depend on where you are. If you are, I've seen some of Felix's teams where he's in the standings. Yes, I would, because I think getting the first round pick is great. I should say, I won't say, I'll throw myself under the bus too. One of the leagues that I have Caleb Hawkins, I'm the same. I'm not in the playoffs. I think I finished like 8th or something like that, 8th or 9th. I would not have any issue moving him because I do think you have to fear a little bit him transferring up. Will he be that effective? Not at North Texas. Now, I think he's been really good this year and better than just a G5 running back in a really good system, kind of good. Where I know that's kind of been the argument, right? It's like, well, if Caleb Hawkins were to transfer up to, say, a Ole Miss, or Keywan Lacey's not leaving. I was trying to think of a Kentucky, right? Like if Seth McGowan goes, like, will he be that effective in that offense where he is at North Texas? So why not take the first round pick? If you guys who are watching this don't listen to The Official, which is our recruiting show, I mean, you, me, and Matt talked about this on the show that dropped Thursday night. We feel pretty good about 8. I think you and him were like around 8 or 9. I had 10 players in my tier 1, and then we went down to almost 14 in that tier 2. So you're talking about going into the third round of players you feel comfortable drafting. I would feel comfortable taking a first-round pick because I think you could get a little plus when it comes to player and points from one of those players. In. You are taking a risk because, you're going to be wrong sometimes on these freshmen. But if you're that far down, you're not really competing, I wouldn't mind it. I think Hawkins is really good. I don't think this is a one-hit wonder. I think Hawkins can be good for possibly the rest of his career.
I mean, if you think he's really good, then you're just thinking that this could be an Ahmad Hardy situation.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Ahmad Hardy kind of landed in the rainmaker of rainmaker RB fantasy spots, and sometimes that now we've got the dilemma year one was, okay, it's a true freshman doing this at a pretty poor level. What's that look like moving forward? And now it's like, well, now he's stuck at like the best possible situation.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be really tough to separate the context and situation for him over the next couple of years as we discuss his NFL outlook, which is interesting. We haven't gotten to the wide receivers yet, but I know RGP has dropped this in for a couple of times this morning, so we might as well just try to hit it here real quick. It says Jeremy Scott or Jayshon Platt. Heard Belt Camp banged up his shoulder last week. Jayshon Platt being the wide receiver at FAU and Jeremy Scott at South Alabama. We have Platt projected as our wide receiver 85 this week, about 12 fantasy points. That feels kind of right to me. I don't know that there's like a huge ceiling there overall, just because of how much they target Messer. So even with a shoulder injury, but we didn't project Scott at all this week.
It's because I thought Scott didn't they already play?
South Alabama? No, they played today. I think they played 3:30. Okay. I want to say, because I traded a Kentrell Bullock this week, and I had to look that up to make sure the trade was kosher. I don't think I'd be rolling Scott out there. I know he had 6 for 102 and 3 for 121. Yeah. So maybe that does become a little more interesting. Maybe I'm talking myself into this as we sit here. Are you a favorite? I guess would be my question. Are you if you think you're going to need some points here today, I think you roll Scott. If you just need to make sure you don't get 0, I think Platt might be the play. It's an interesting one though.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's see here. We got 6-7 in the chat. Get out of here.
6-7. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Do you just want to answer the other wide receiver question while we got it?
We can. Well, we got another QB question here. Somebody, Meth Labs asks, is Cutter Bully actually good? Could pick him up and start him in the Tadpole versus Tennessee Tech. I wouldn't. Yeah. I don't think Cutter Bully is bad. He is a massive improvement on Zach Calzada. In the battle of two guys, it sounds like they have names of things you would find on like a pizza restaurant's menu, a Bully and a Calzada. He's better than Calzada, but I don't know that he's like he's capped at. I'm going to say this, and I don't remember what his stat line was last week. I mean, it was like he's capped at like 240 and.
It wasn't that good. Like that's the thing. Like I know they blew out Florida. But that was a lot to do with DJ Lagway throwing interception. It was not necessarily like Cutter Bully's been good, especially from what we probably thought.
But he even had 200 yards last week, if I remember correctly. He did.
He did not. No, he's only had a couple good games. Like he had 40 points a couple weeks ago.
He had 330 against Tennessee. So.
Well, yeah. I was going to say he had like 40 fantasy points in that game. I remember that. And then he's had a couple 20-point games, but like I would say if you're picking, assuming you're talking about here with the other quarterbacks you mentioned earlier, I would 1,000% play Minicucci and Horvath, and I forgot who your other option was. I had 1,000%.
No, he was Heinzel, Mayava, Mensa.
Oh yeah. I would still play all those over Boley though. I don't even think Boley comes into the conversation.
I mean, there's a real chance that they just run the ball 60 times today, right?
Yeah,
against Tennessee Tech.
Possible. Yeah,
that's certainly in the cards. And then Pointum dropped a wide receiver question. We'll get to that here in a minute. We'll work through some more running backs. I just wanted to get to that one because it had been sitting there for a while. But we're gonna make you wait, Pointum. So, but no, we'll get around to that here pretty quickly. Let's go to our second grouping here. And this one shocked me sort of until I realized that they're playing Oklahoma State because Joe Jackson has been relatively ineffective when left to his own devices this year with no Dylan Edwards. But Oklahoma State's kind of a free space, so he's there at 16. Kashawn Evans at 17. Nate Shepard, Jaden Thomas, who we were kind of talking about earlier. What's that injury report look like? I think I'm leaning toward him playing, and I think we as a group are thinking that as well. He's there at 19. Wayne Knight at 20. Cam Edwards, 21. Cameron Dickey. Mike Washington, LJ Martin, Lucky Sutton, Eli Heidenreich, Jaden Ball, Rayleigh Brown, Dante McMillan, and Gregory DeRozier's rounding out the top 30 here. Matt, your guy, Rayleigh Brown.
Yeah, I was really good with him on the 1 year I played college football, or CFB, whatever that was, 24, 25, whatever last year's was. Yeah, loved Rayleigh Brown in that game. He was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, look, I expect him to get a lot of run today. There's really not much left for Arizona State at this point with Sam Levitt out, Jordan Tyson out. I think Rayleigh Brown's going to be most of the offense. We talked a little bit about West Virginia last week too. I think that they're, trying to do everything they can to keep winning games. They're playing tough. I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Arizona State, but I think Rayleigh Brown's going to have a good game. Also very good receiver, just a dynamic playmaker when the ball's in his hands.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I think this is a group, it's interesting. I think trying to project the Texas Tech running backs in a given week is, difficult to the point that it's really tough to do. I think I would potentially be okay putting Jacoby Williams out there as well this week. I will just say, just because UCF's defense is really not great overall. I think there's room for Dickey and Williams both to have decent days. So he's a guy that I would consider rolling out there today as well, and wouldn't necessarily fixate so much on us having Dickey a little bit higher. Brett says Jaden Thomas is dealing with a hamstring, which is always tough. But I think he's going to play today. I don't say that with a ton of confidence, but it does feel like the case here to me today. Some other names on here. I mean, Jaden Ball's been getting a lot of the run recently for Ole Miss. I don't know that I feel amazing about that matchup overall. Ole Miss, you can run on Ole Miss a little bit. We saw Oklahoma do it a couple weeks ago. We saw Xavier Robinson do it a couple weeks ago. But you can run on Ole Miss a little bit, so that's an interesting one. And it's a tough running back week, I think, this week. There's not a lot of,
it is.
It doesn't go that far down. There's some buys, some other stuff mixed in there that are making it a little, some really tough matchups. King Miller, you probably can't really rule him out there against Iowa. There's some tough spots for sure this week that are making even some of these like late season guys that popped up a little more difficult to check in on there and to play.
Yeah, it's a tough week. Another one that kind of worries me here is LJ Martin there at 24. I mean, again, I know he's down at 24, so we don't have him super high, but TCU's rush defense has actually been pretty good this year. He's still, I think, a little bit banged up. I mean, last week, I think he got you a touchdown, which may have helped you. But, I mean, I still would be a little bit worried about starting him. I think if you've got someone else, I might go the other way. And you did 1,000% meth labs. You retired me from NCAA 24. It was we called it quits after that.
The tough part for what Martin did last week, no touchdown, but he did have 6 catches.
Oh yeah, okay, that's what it was. Yeah,
and in weeks when this BYU offense gets in trouble, they dump the ball down to him a lot. So it does provide. That's not every week, but it does provide weeks where maybe otherwise he's not getting a ton of volume. It does provide a really nice floor for him. He just doesn't have a lot of ceiling. So unfortunately, that's been the case with him pretty much all season. Let's head over to our wide receivers here, and we can jump into some wide receiver questions that we have coming in. It's Scudero or Jeremiah Smith 1-2 every week, and actually I think the top 8 or 9 this week were all just the same 8 or 9 from last week, but in a slightly different order. I will say Elijah Surratt is doubtful. We didn't quite have that information when I made this graphic late last night. So he's a guy that I would fade at this point. We're talking about Omar Cooper, who I think is on the next page in the next grouping, if I remember correctly. Anyway, and then you can probably start Becker, I believe, not to be confused with other white receiver Decker from yonder years. But I think you can probably rule those guys out there with some confidence. But yeah, Scudero at 1, Smith at 2 there, Casey Concepcion at 3, Skylar Bell at 4, Denzel Boston actually ruled out as well. So I don't think we have Roebuck in our top 30. For me, he would probably slide in there as not the guy who does any sort of math related rankings things behind the scenes. Jeremy Bernard at 7, McAllister at 8, Mekhi Lemon at 9. Interesting matchup there against Iowa, as we've talked about a couple times this morning. Wyatt Young at 10, Malachi Toney, Deuce Robinson, Bo Sparks, Ted Hurst, and Braden Pagan. There in your top 15. So some late breaking injury news here is causing a couple of these to pivot. I can certainly drop the names that would have been like next on the list in as we discuss here rest of the morning. But just something to watch with some of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you you mentioned how I have a lot of shares of Caleb Hawkins. I also have a fair amount of shares of Wyatt Young. I think if you grabbed him or Skylar Bell also off the waiver wire, you're feeling pretty good about yourself right now. Both those guys have been amazing. But yeah, and speaking about Elijah Surratt and Denzel Boston, I know we'll talk about Omar here in a minute, but I would feel pretty good about playing Desmond Roebuck if you have him knowing Boston's going to be out again. I think this Washington offense is going to be pretty good today against Purdue.
The names that we would bump onto this list, by the way, just they would obviously be on the next page. But Braylon Staley from Tennessee, Chris Dawn from Texas State, Devin McEwen, Jacoby Lane are some of the next guys that would have been up on our listing here this morning. And with that, I don't think there's really anything terribly crazy or interesting in that group. And we did catch that Boston is out there, unfortunately. Yeah. Let's see. We did get a question. Austin, would you play CJ Carr versus Pitt? I have Braxton starting in like 3 leagues, and Braxton is now a game time decision. Options are Carr or Egett versus Nevada, or Altmaier, Malik Washington. I would be a little hesitant to play Carr. I think there are some scenarios where Pitt's rush defense is pretty good. They also haven't played amazing rush offenses this year. Yeah. So I do think some of their underlying stuff, and that's a little fake. So I do think Notre Dame's going to be able to run the ball on them.
Yeah.
They're very tough to pass against, though. It's a pretty physical, big, dynamic group of DBs back there. Overall, they can be beat because they play a ton of man. So unless the volume is crazy for Carr, I don't see like a huge week for him. I think he's capped unless it's like a 6-point pass TD. So other than that, again, the Egett versus Nevada, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I don't have the some of like the explosive and stuff for Nevada, but I'd imagine their pass defense probably isn't amazing.
Yeah,
I'll look that up as we're chatting here. Apparently they're like, bottom 50-ish in the country and a lot of stuff as I'm kind of trying to quickly click through. I don't remember matchups for Altmaier or Malik Washington today, so I don't want to.
I would probably avoid Carr too. I mean, we're going to pick this game later, and I've mentioned this twice now on C2C Live, even before Pitt was ranked, that I think this could be a spot where Notre Dame gets upset. I mean, again, I get it. They've bounced back, and they look like a much better team after the 2 losses earlier this year. And I've been a guy who, look, I flag planted CJ Carr. I thought he was going to have a good year this year, specifically because of the offensive coordinator. But there have been games where they have not looked good, and Austin just mentioned it. Maybe they have the 3rd ranked rush defense. Now, maybe that is a little bit of outliers. A little fake still, but still 3rd rank's pretty good. So even if you say a little fake, we drop it into maybe the 20s. That's still good. I think Love's going to have a good game today. They have the 25th ranked overall defense and the 13th ranked pass defense. That's not a fluke. Like, they're good. And here's the thing you just mentioned, even if they're playing a lot of man, what wide receiver on Notre Dame are you hoping is going to create that separation for CJ Carr today? So I would, like, if you're telling me, Meth Labs, you've got to play one of those, I would lean Egett personally over Carr. I'd feel pretty comfortable playing Egett over Carr.
Yeah, not to get Pitt's defense has also gotten, they were very banged up for like a 2 or 3 week stretch because they played like 6 or 7 games in a row. And then had a bye last week, and they're getting some guys back. So slash like, guys that were iffy are feeling a little better. So I do think that there's a real chance that this is kind of a rock fight like we were talking about with that Oklahoma-Alabama matchup earlier. So there is that. Let's see. Somebody in the chat said or asked Beatty or Pagan, 1.5 PPR, pick 2. Hank Beatty, Braden Pagan, and Lacey, the Marshall wide receiver, who I think is actually on the next page here as well. So I think we all have them projected pretty close together. And actually, let's just pull up the next page. I'm 98% sure he's on there. Yeah, DeMarcus Lacey 26 and Beatty's 27. So they're right beside each other there. To me, at least lately, it feels like Beatty doesn't have that much ceiling.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm trying to like quickly pull up his game log just to like confirm that and make sure I'm not just kind of, I mean, he had that 186 and 1 against Purdue. Other than that, like he's not seeing a ton of targets. Not like they spread the ball around pretty heavily. Rain, I would be tempted to go Pagan Lacey, but I mean, they're all projected so close together. I don't know that I would feel like, amazing giving someone like a definitive answer on that,
Yeah, I mean, they are very all close ranked together. I feel pretty good that I would definitely start Pagan. Like, I think he would be the one for sure I'm in. Then I'm down between Lacey.
Even with the rain? Because that's what he was asking. It's supposed to be rainy there.
Yeah, I mean, was it 90% chance of rain?
That ain't 100, baby.
It's not 100. It's still pretty good chance of rain. Yeah. I mean, yeah, do we really think that they lean that heavily into the run? I mean, he's been fairly solid. I mean, he's been getting targeted a ridiculous amount for Utah State over the last 12, 6, 6, 8, 9, 6. Like, he's been targeted a lot. As you mentioned, Beatty's kind of fallen off a little bit. Lacey, going up against was it Georgia Southern, I think is who. Yeah. Or sorry, Georgia State.
Georgia State.
Oh man. I personally probably would go Lacey and Pagan again because they're just getting targeted so much. Even with the rain, I think you're still probably going to throw the ball. So those would be the two that I would lean toward.
And then he did. Somebody dropped another question here. Let's just read off these next 15, and then footballer one. We'll get to your question here. Here's our 16 through 30, and again, we had already mentioned we would adding like Braylon Staley, Jacoby Lane, and McEwen to this grouping with some of the injuries and stuff that have popped up here this morning. Chris Brazel, Carnell Tate. I know some people were asking, will Tate play? This could be one where he plays a little bit and they yank him just if this game gets out of hand. UCLA, no Nico. Could get ugly. We might see that. But I do think he plays today. Are you working on that assumption as well, Matthew?
Yes, I will. If there's an update on there, if they expect him to play or not, I will let you guys know. I have not seen anything about him possibly playing or not. So I would think right now there's just no reason for them to risk it. I mean, they're a couple weeks away from the game, which is really going to matter to Ryan Day. I think they're going to try and keep him healthy. They should be able to win fairly easily today.
Duplessis, Barkate, Anthony Smith, Easton Messer, Lewis Bond, Nick Devereaux, Cortez Braum, Omar Cooper, and we already mentioned, Cooper probably, with the injury news, you'd bump up a little bit higher. Although he wasn't like the guy last week. It was more that Becker dude who I wasn't terribly familiar with. So, DeMarcus Lacey, Hank Beatty, Leland Smith has had a couple big games lately, or has grown into that clear wide receiver 2 distinction, I think, there for San Jose State. Zachariah Branch and Cyrus Allen. And then let's see. I know we had a wide receiver question here from Footballer. He said, for no PPR.
Can I real quick on Tate? Actually, I was scrolling through some of my text messages just to mention this. He was not spotted at practice on Wednesday or Thursday. Tate. And one of the things that Ryan Day has mentioned multiple times throughout this week is that they're excited that Quincy Porter is going to be back. I would be cautious on Tate.
Okay.
Because again, here's the other bad news. They do not play until 2:30 my time, 3:30 Eastern time. So there are probably not going to be any shots of Tate out on any practice field until after games kick off at noon.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have anybody. I know nobody's asking about Tate, like specifically in the chat. But if you're listening to this and it's, hey, I've got guys going later in the day, maybe you can risk it a little bit. But at this point, I would almost work under the assumption that Tate's probably not going to play again today.
Yeah, that's good info. That's good to know. And so I think I agree with that then, in the playoffs, unless you've got, your auto subset, which I did make sure I did go through this Tuesday and doing all my spots. But yeah, if that's not an option for you, Something to consider there with Tate. Somebody asked, no PPR, 2 of Parker Kingston, Chris Brazzell, Kadarius Toney. So let's start with that question. Kingston, Brazzell, Toney.
Did he mean Malachi Toney? Kadarius Toney's in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he means Malachi
okay.
Toney.
I was just
okay. Yeah, I would assume. For me, I think without PPR, Brazzell, Toney seem like the answers to me.
100% agree. 100% agree.
And then also need to choose 2 of Nate Shepard, Damon Claiborne, Diore Hubbard, or Smothers Scott from NC State. That's a tough one. They did say Hubbard is supposed to play. Shepard feels like the obvious selection of the group. And then we have Smothers ranked pretty high today. I know we're all avoiding Claiborne this week. I think it comes down to, do you trust Smothers' health? Because West Virginia plays it was like literally just up on the thing.
Oh, yeah, it was just up there, and I have no idea. It's out of the top of my head.
Arizona State.
Yeah, which they should do fairly well. I mean, Arizona, they're not on quit watching them, but Arizona State's struggling right now with just all the injuries they've been dealing with on offense and defense.
I would say maybe Shepard Hubbard.
Yeah, I mean, because
no
Shepard
PPR hurt Shepard a little bit though, assuming it's the same pick.
Yeah, I still would play Shepard. I feel pretty good about him. What worries me is, again, as you mentioned, like Smothers, we have him ranked, or what is it, 5th overall?
Yeah.
It's just we don't know if he's, like they said he's going to possibly play, but we just don't know.
Yeah, it makes the split, projecting that tough.
So I guess, to steal what Austin said earlier, Footballer One, if it's something where you are going to need points, and I would probably lean with Austin and go Hubbard and Shepard. If you are favored and you think you can possibly risk it a little bit, I wouldn't mind trying Smothers and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
Because we do have him. I mean, it's a great matchup for him too. He should have a great game, but it's just kind of, we don't 100%
I
know
wouldn't
he's
go
going to
that far. It's Miami, but.
Well, I mean, still a decent matchup.
It's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah. So, and he does catch passes, if they're in some trouble from a pass rush perspective, there's some game planning stuff that can be going on there. All right, let's hit the tight ends quick, and then we're going to take a quick break here. Here's our top 15 on the week. Michael Trigg, Terrence Carter, Shimon Medier, Trey Ed's Green, with Van Buren starting this week, by the way, as we kind of mentioned at the top. Nussmeier is out. Brody Foley, Daquan Wright, Juice Vereen, Hunter Tipton, Dorian Thomas, Decker DeGraff, Matthew Lauder, Isaiah Cummings, Noah Myers, Eli Raridan, Josh Cuevas. I don't really have a lot to say with. I mean, I think this is pretty, standard chalky stuff at this point. No Koziel this week. Houston doesn't play, so he's not up there. So I just don't have a lot of comments on the tight ends.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, obviously Trigg, if you grabbed him and you're feeling. If you grabbed him, you're feeling great. You're probably in the playoffs with how great he's been this year. Outside of that, I mean, Mox is not here. I know he's in the chat making Ryan Day comments. Maybe he can chime in real quick about some tight ends. Outside of that, I've got nothing to say on the tight ends.
I just love that this is Bozo the Clown, because I love calling people bozos, and I just get to go. Bozo asked, Allen, Lemon, or CJ Carr for DraftKings Superflex. I mean, I hesitate to answer these kind of questions because I'm just not a DFS guy. I literally can't even play it in my state. I don't play it at all. I just don't feel great about talking about that at all.
Yeah, I don't play DraftKings either. I actually don't think we can here. So I don't even know what you mean by you have to have Allen, Lemon, or CJ Carr. And I guess it's a super flex. My bad. Yeah, I mean, if you're going just based on our points, I'd probably go Lemon. But I don't know, how that works with our projected fantasy points with the way it works with DraftKings.
Yeah, just don't have a good feel for that. All right, we're gonna take a break here. When we come back, we're gonna hit on some underdog plays. We'll do another kind of injury roundup, see if there's any news dropping with an hour to kick off here for some of these noon Eastern timetables, and then we'll pick some games to get out of here. All right, guys, this is the Tailgate. We will be right back.
I got calls calling. The young Shuck was fall. Where's Ollie with them dough? I be balling like the good die pro. I be balling like my brother Mo. Check West, I ain't the mark. Joe, Steph West, stay with the
Muted. Did it to myself. Played myself. Welcome back to the Tailgate, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. Austin Ace, Matt Bruning here, getting you guys ready for Week 12 of the college football slate. And we keep dropping your questions in here, guys. If you've got them, I see a couple already came in. Colin asks, late to the start of the show. I know, and I'm going to blow this whole comment up because Minicucci is like QB 15 or so, or like 18 or something.
He's pretty high.
I think it's even higher than that. Yeah, he's ranked very high. We like him a lot this week. We were talking about it earlier. Sam Houston, just kind of let you do whatever. So we are fans of starting Mr. Minicucci this week against Sam Houston. Jared says, good luck in all your playoffs. Unless you're
just to answer the question, there's not a massive difference between the two, but yes, we do really like Minicucci this week. It's like a point difference, but between him and Brad Jackson.
Yep. And then Drew says, I need 2 out of Ruben Owens, Miles Davis, Keyshawn Singleton, and Devin McEwen. Jared says Minicucci's quietly been a top 12 QB. We're not quiet on the cooch over here, Jared. Minicucci, we're large fans over here, at least on campus life. I know we are. Back to our question here. It's a good question. I think I would be McEwen Davis. Is it PPR?
Yeah,
I know McEwen won some people last week. People are probably not super excited to get back on that horse, but
yeah, what they get Charlotte this week though? Yeah. I know we have Ruben Owens. I think projected fairly high. I would go McEwen and I might go McEwen and Singleton. Full point PPR. He said.
I don't mind the Singleton shout either. I think I would rule. I'm tempted to rule Owens out.
I am too. I think out of the 4, he'd be the lowest. Yeah, I think he'd be the lowest for me.
I guess we've been asking this question all morning, and I know it's probably playoffs for everybody. It's one of those situations like, do you just need to know that you're going to get 10 points? Do you need probably 20? I think that starts playing into some of the questions that you're maybe. It makes it a little more tough to pick in some situations. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think McEwen for sure is in for both of us. And then I guess just, I think Singleton, Austin, same Miles Davis, especially with the full point PPR. So I think you should feel pretty good about either one of those. But I would definitely put Owens fourth.
Let me just pull up what we have projected for this week for the group. Singleton. and McEwen.
Thank you, footballer one, by the way.
So they're all projected within like 2.5 points of each other. Owens has actually projected the highest. So again, that's why like if you just need 10 points, like Owens might be the guy that I roll out there. He's projected at 14.5. McEwen 14, Singleton 13.5, Davis 12. Davis is another floor guy to me. Like I know what I'm getting from him every single week.
Yeah.
I would say McEwen and Singleton probably have the highest point upside of that group.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I don't know if that helped or not, but hopefully a little bit.
Well, I mean, we gave him at least one, McEwen for sure, and then just kind of go with, like I said, if you want floor, maybe I still think Owens' floor is the lowest out of those, especially with the way Marcel Reed has been kind of vulturing touchdowns all season, rushing wise from him. So like if you want, as Austin said, Miles Davis has been really consistent. If you want, you need a decent amount of points that you think is going to be fine, Miles Davis, and then maybe Singleton's just kind of that upside play. If you're a little wanting to, hey, maybe I'll be happy, maybe he gets me 15, maybe only gets me 10, go Singleton.
All right. Well, let's hop into some Underdog here. Week 12 of Underdog. Man, I was so close on the sweep 2 weeks in a row, and then Nick Singleton had to break that one run. Just always, the danger with playing some lowers. But that's okay. It didn't dissuade me. I'm back with lowers this week. Matt, you are too. I actually messed that up. That Ahmad Hardy is supposed to be a higher. I'll fix it as you give yours.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with two, I think, pretty free squares here in Keywan Lacey and Jeremiah Love, both 0.5 rush and receiving touchdowns. I mean, again, Keywan Lacey has been just phenomenal when it comes to touchdowns. You have to go all the way back to October 11th before he has not scored at least one rushing or receiving touchdown. He has been absolutely phenomenal for that Ole Miss offense. And again, once they get down in the red zone, they really do seem to kind of focus on getting him those touchdowns. So I think it's a fairly easy shot today for them to get that. Again, I know we kind of talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the show. Florida's defense has been pretty good, but I still think that overall they are going to be able to score. Ole Miss is, again, fighting for the most part to make the playoffs here. So I think overall they are going to score some points, and Keywan Lacey is going to be a main driver in that. On Notre Dame side of things here as well, it's the same thing. Look, I actually think it's going to be a tough matchup with Pitt. And Austin talked about it, right? If you go in and you look at the stats right now, it'll tell you that Pitt has the third-ranked rush defense in the country. Very, very good. But as he said, it's a little bit, I was going to say fraudulent, a little bit fraudulent with some of the teams that they have played, but I still think it is a very good defense. However, Jeremiah Love is also just a very, very good player. Do you know the last time Jeremiah Love didn't score a touchdown? Or receiving?
Has he done? Does he have at least one in every single game this year?
Outside of the Miami game, that's it. He has scored a rushing.
Oh yeah, because I remember everyone was panting. They're like, "Oh boy."
Yeah, exactly. Outside of the rushing or outside of the Miami game, he has scored at least a rushing or receiving touchdown in each game. And some of those multiples. I'm talking like there's actually. Let me see here. There is only one other game that he's only scored one touchdown, and that was against Boise State. He has scored multiple touchdowns, rushing or receiving, in every single game outside of Boise State and Miami. I think he's due for at least one today. Again, you only got to get one. And then Ty Simpson, baby. Austin teased it earlier. Ron Brand for your boy Matty B. I usually go all hires here, but again, all joking aside, 272.5 passing yards here for Ty Simpson against what I do expect to be a very tough game for them going to, or wait, they're coming to Bryant-Denny Stadium, right? It's not going to Oklahoma. I can't remember if they're playing at home, but regardless, it's going to be a tough matchup, I think, against this team. Oklahoma's defense is fairly good. Again, Brent Venables knows that he doesn't have to worry that much about the rush. Oklahoma has no real rushing attack. And outside of the LSU game, where, again, he did play pretty poor, but that's the last time since Vanderbilt that Ty Simpson has gone over 272 yards. I am taking the lower on Ty Simpson's passing yards here of 272.5 pass yards.
All right. And I've been informed by the chat actually already that the DJ Lagway lower passing yards that I'm about to discuss is no longer available. I'm sorry. That's a bummer.
I mean, it makes sense. It was a great call when you got it, so it's
it was
not,
like
not a
10
bad
p.m.
thing.
last night too. It's not like I did this, Wednesday, and it was still available as of last night. So that's a bummer. I don't really need to talk about that one, but I think there's a real chance when he got benched last week. There's a real chance that could that could happen again. Some of the other ones that I have here, and I also actually had Nico Imalieva lower than like 33.5 rush yards, which I also really like today with that OSU pass rush getting after him. But alas, onward and upward. Nate Frazier lower than 57.5 rush yards. Texas is an extremely stout rush defense this year. Georgia has not actually run the ball that consistently this season. I know they had a big game last week, obviously, against Mississippi State in that drubbing, but Frazier wasn't even really the guy that was getting a ton of early work. And he had, obviously the big statistical game last week if you go and look at it. But I think lower than feels comfortable here. I don't think he's going to break a big one, and I don't know if they're going to give him enough touches to chip his way over it. And then I have Ahmad Hardy higher than 107.5 rush yards. Like I know, actually, in years past, have kind of avoided some of these over 100-ish yard rush lines that have floated around. I've leaned into them a little more this year, and I've actually had a pretty good amount of success with them. In these soft matchup spots, if you just think a running back is going to go off, I don't see any reason to not think, 107.5. Like if I think Hardy's going to have a 100-yard day, and I think it's probably maybe even closer to like 130, 140, 150 than like that, just because it's a 3-digit, line, it isn't necessarily going to scare me off a little bit. I know they rotated the backs between him and Jamal Roberts a little bit last week, but I think in this one, even if they do that, I think he probably still gets there. I just think there's going to be enough carries to go around in a matchup against Mississippi State, which again, we just saw what happened last year. Jared says Georgia's top 20 in rush yards per game. Nobody is dominating that backfield. And I think it takes them a lot of carries to get there every single week. And some of it's Stockton. So it's I think Frazier is lower than this week. All right. And apologies on my way again. So, all right, let's hop into our Devy session here this week. I think it's Corey. I think, if it's Mike, we just do, our usual apologize for whatever he says on here. No, we'll check out our Devy session. Then once we come back from that, we're actually not going to go to break. We're just going to hop right into injury roundup and pick some games. So here is this week's Devy session.
What is going on, Campus Canton family? Corey Pereira here from the Campus Canton Devy team, and we are back with another edition of the Devy session. And in this week's edition, I want to take a look at a few underrated freshmen that we're going to be talking about a lot more as the offseason approaches. Let's go. Now, in this week's edition of Back to Devy, me and my co-host decided to re-rank the freshman quarterbacks as if we were drafting today. Now, at number 1, we're still holding strong with Michigan quarterback Bryce Underwood, followed by Alabama quarterback Keelan Russell at number 2. Then we're going with the 2 hottest freshmen of this season, with JKS over at Cal and Maryland quarterback Malik Washington. Now, at number 5, we're going with the hottest freshman quarterback of the last few weeks, and that's Mason Heinschel over at Pitt, who, since becoming the starter in Week 6, has the 6th most passing yards in the entire country and is tied for the 5th most passing touchdown. Now, this is a guy with some pretty good pocket awareness and movability. He has some of that ad-lib and out-of-structure ability that the NFL craves at the next level. He can get away with some arm angles and some different launch points, but it can be a little bit of a detriment at times. He has 8 touchdowns to 5 interceptions over the last 4 weeks, so seeing how that play kind of cleans up over the next few weeks will be important for his projection going forward. Now, our biggest disagreement actually came at number 6, where I would push for a guy who's only flashed in some limited showings, but I honestly think he could be even higher than this by this time next year, and that's Mississippi State quarterback Kamario Taylor, who we saw score 3 touchdowns in a losing effort against Georgia last week, but has flashed as a package player for Mississippi State this year. Something I thought we'd be talking about Deuce Knight over at Auburn possibly doing. But this kid at 6'4", 230 pounds, and a 0.94 athleticism rating in our database, Taylor's rare combination of size, speed, and power has already been on display early this season. And he's even flashed as a passer, completing 11 passes for 174 yards and 3 touchdowns to go along with his 200 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. Shapen is out the door after this year, and Taylor has really given this Bulldog fan base plenty to be excited about over the 2026 offseason. Now, outside of one or two names at the top of the list, this has kind of been an ugly freshman class at the running back position. Me and Mike even struggled to come up with 6 or 7 names that we could agree on to rank as of today. But two guys that I think we'll be talking a lot more as the offseason approaches is this true freshman duo that we got to see last night with Oregon in Jordan Davison and De'Aaron Hill Jr. Now, Davison has really seen his workload increase over the last few weeks. He just scored his 12th rushing touchdown of the season. That currently leads this freshman class at the Power 5 level. Now, at 6 foot, 230 pounds, he was kind of typecasted into a short yardage and goal line role over the first few weeks, but that's really expanded, going over 60 yards in 3 of the last 4 weeks, and he's been a huge asset for them during this recent stretch. But don't sleep on De'Aaron Hill Jr., who hasn't been getting as much volume, but is dominating this backfield from an efficiency standpoint. He's averaging 9.3 yards per carry, which was good enough for 3rd in the country for backs with 40 or more carries. He has 10 15-plus yard plays and 21 missed tackles for us coming into Week 12, which leads Oregon's backfield, despite receiving the least amount of carries of their 3-headed committee right now. And his 7 yards after contact is leading the nation with backs over 40-plus carries. I might actually prefer Hill, who might be like the Jeremiah Love of this backfield, where Davison might be more of like the Audric Estime type. Now, unfortunately, we aren't blessed with the same wide receiver class that we had last year. Big names like Caleb Cunningham, Elijah Thomas, Quincy Porter, they're real long shots to be able to beat that year 1-0 thresholds this year. But we did get a pleasant surprise in Michigan wide receiver Andrew Marsh, who we decided to slot in as wide receiver 6 of the freshman wide receiver class if we are re-ranking today. He's beaten 7 of the 8 year 1-0 thresholds, which has proven to have a slightly higher correlation to success at the next level. He has a good build at 6 foot, 195 pounds. He's a good athlete with 70th percentile burst metrics in our database and at 21.2 miles per hour time on the field. And he's really been an all-around versatile weapon for them. He splits time between the slot and the outside for the majority of the last 6 weeks. He's a threat on gadget plays and down the field, and he currently leads this freshman class in yards per route run for players with at least 30 targets on the year. He's an all-around weapon that should maintain a healthy role and be able to grow with Bryce Underwood. Now, last but not least, the unsung hero of this freshman class, especially with the way the whole group is performing as a whole, has to be Miami wide receiver Malachi Toney, who's gone from 3-star reclassify to leading this freshman class with 644 yards receiving. This was finally one of those offseason hype stories that seemed to stick. Now, he's been a slot-heavy player, and his size might leave something to be desired for some people, but he's currently pulled in 4 of 7 contested targets and has 0 drops on the year despite having the highest volume of this freshman class. He's someone I expect to flirt with the second round of startups going into next year. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for me this week. Make sure you guys are listening to the Back to Devy podcast every Wednesday morning, the #1 Devy podcast on the Campus to Canton podcast feed. Don't let anybody else tell you different, and make sure you're keeping it locked with CampusToCanton.com all season long.
All right, thank you, Corey. It wasn't Mike, so we don't have to, we don't have to
worry
issue
too
a second apology after it's done. So all good there. All right, so we did promise doing another just kind of injury roundup. So we'll mention some of the ones that we mentioned at the top of the show, and just a couple of other things have popped up. Nico Iamaleava out today against Ohio State. Jonah Coleman available, but Adam Muhammad to start for Washington, and we kind of discussed that. Like, we wouldn't be shocked if that just means like he's there on the sideline with his stuff on, but fewer than 5 touches feels like it's in play there for him. Denzel Boston is out. Elijah Surratt doubtful. Evan Pryor out. Garrett Nussmeier out. Brett Norfleet is in. Whether you want to play him or not with Matt Zollers back there is another discussion right now. No offense to your guys, Zollers. Just
No, take it.
Kind of got to see it before I do it in the playoffs.
Never wrong, just early. It's all right. We'll see next year.
Craver game time decision. Craver was game time decision. Then he was listed probable. He is out on the field warming up right now.
So sounds.
I would expect him to maybe play today. Chandler Morris will be playing as well for Virginia. He's been dealing with a concussion this week, and it does sound like Tate. I've been searching for stuff on Tate. I can't find anything. I kind of think maybe he doesn't play today after the discussion we've had so far this morning. So
again, if you missed this morning, he was not spotted at practice Wednesday or Thursday. Ryan Day has been hyping up the return of Quincy Porter. There's no need for Tate to play today in the UCLA game, so I would lean hesitantly toward playing him if you've got him in your lineups.
The dummy portion of the Ohio State fan base is lighting the internet on fire, saying that he's quitting for the season. So if you go looking for stuff, you will run into that.
I mean, in fairness,
Not
Joey
yes.
Bosa did do that at one point, but they were also, I believe, out of the. No, they did make the playoffs that year. Actually, I take that back. But I don't think Carnell Tate's doing that with them having the opportunity to repeat as national champions. Doesn't make much sense. But I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me.
All right. Let's pick some games here, Matt.
Let's do it.
You know, we're skipping the betting this week. That is not. That's really not either of our.
Can we save the most important game for the last one?
Pitt.
Yeah. I was gonna say the first one on the show sheet. Yeah, let's save that for the last game. Let's pick that last.
All right. Then we're gonna start with Oklahoma and Alabama. Yeah. And actually, the lines were pulled yesterday, I believe. So let's confirm this line is 100%. It's still 6. Alabama 6-point favorites against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Oklahoma. I think I don't think they win the game, but I mean, you're giving me 6 points. I think this is going to be close. I think we've kind of talked about this a lot during this show. I think the word you used is a rock fight. I think it's going to be a very tough game. Again, because Oklahoma is a good defense. Brett Venables is very good at what he does as from a defensive minded head coach. They know that they don't have to worry that much about the run here for Alabama with how bad it is. They know they can lock in on Ty Simpson. So I think this is going to be a possible 3-point game. I don't think Oklahoma wins it. I still think Alabama wins, but I think this is going to be a really close game. So I'll take Oklahoma.
I think I'm there with you. I don't think this is more than like a 1-score game either way that we're talking here. It wouldn't shock me at all if Oklahoma ends up winning this game. I think the one thing
I'd love it.
I mean, Alabama and every team to an extent struggles with rushing quarterbacks. That's why having a dual threat quarterback has become so in vogue over the past 10, 12, 15, whatever years in college football, to the point where like even Nick Saban, the GOAT coach, who was like, just give me a game manager, was like, F it. Like, we'll get some guys back here that can run around, because he saw, obviously not all of it, Mac Jones, but he saw what these guys can do and adapted to that. And Alabama does struggle a bit with some of these rushing quarterbacks. Pavia, Castellanos, both those offenses were able to move the ball thanks to those QBs. If Mateer is running around a bit today, that makes things pretty interesting. I think that that potentially is the equalizer in this one. Give me Oklahoma to cover, but give me Alabama to win. Victor Crumb catches the snitch, but whoever they're playing still wins. I forget what the reference is from Harry Potter already. All right. Iowa, USC. USC is 6.5 favorite still?
Yeah. 6.5 still, yeah.
Cool. At USC, I like Iowa.
Same. Yeah.
This feels like a classic poop to bed spot for Lincoln Riley and co.
Not only that, again, we've talked about it. Jaden Maiava just doesn't inspire confidence in me to not turn the ball over against this Iowa team. Again, I get it. They still got Gronkowski. I don't know how to say Iowa's. Yeah, Gronowski, who's been okay at times. I mean, realistically, he could have won Iowa that game against Oregon. He had a great drive in that game, and just Dante Moore matched it, and Oregon was able to drive back down and end up winning the game. So I think this could be a very close game against a lot of this. Just Maiava, who again I think is prone to turnovers against good defenses. So yeah, I mean, getting me 6.5 points, I'm taking Iowa.
Yeah, and I think I just think they're going to try to make Ohio State, USC very one-dimensional today. They're going to try to stop the run, and they're going to say, Maiava, don't screw this up.
Yeah,
is what Iowa's game plan is today. That's going to kind of be what this game comes down to. I like Iowa as well here today. I will say, for the record, Colin actually gave us his picks. Colin picked Alabama, and Colin picked USC.
Go figure.
So somebody's gaining two wins here on somebody else after those ones. Texas versus Georgia. Really,
this line has shifted.
What is it now?
It's 4.5.
4.5 for Georgia. It was 6.5 last night. So that
changes my pick. If which one are we going to roll with, the 6.5 or the 4.5?
Let's roll with the 4. Well, Colin picked due to the 6.5, but we'll let Colin have his 6. We'll pick on the 4.5 here, since we're
picking 4.5. I think I'm going to take Georgia. 6.5. I think I would take Texas, but 4.5. My fear is I know Texas has looked a little bit better, but they also haven't really played anybody good in those games of looking a little bit better. I've said from the beginning, I thought Georgia, or not from the beginning, But earlier in the season, when I was seeing the way Gunnar Stockton was playing, I really felt like Georgia was going to end up being one of the best teams in the SEC. That's kind of proven, even though they've had some close games, specifically that Ole Miss game of late where they played a little bit tough. Even last week, who'd they play last week?
Georgia last week, Mississippi State.
Yeah,
or
was that the
Texas
game that
last
came
week.
back in? Came back in one. Who did Georgia play recently? That was actually a really tough game. No, Florida. I'm sorry, Florida. The Florida game a couple weeks ago. That Georgia, but it's rivalry game. That's the what's the forgot what the name of that. Yeah, large cocktail party or whatever. They came back and won that one. I still think they're a better team than Texas at this point. So I'll take Georgia if we're picking on the 4.5. 6.5, I would take Texas.
I think the really tough part once you get down to the 4.5 is what Texas does well, I think feeds right into what Georgia can match up with defensively. Like, I think Georgia can be beat over the top. We've seen a little bit this year. They're just inexperienced, in the secondary. Obviously, they haven't played a lot of teams that I think can do that the past couple weeks, so it hasn't mattered too much for them. And Texas, I don't think can do it consistently either. We've seen this offense. We've talked about this a bunch on a bunch of different shows lately. Sark started out the year wanting this to be a very aggressive downfield passing unit, and then they quickly realized because of some issues with the offensive line, personnel, etc., that's not really something that they can do with any sort of consistent level.
Yeah.
So they've moved to this horizontal passing attack. I just think if Georgia can keep everything in front of them, that just gives you massive issues in terms of moving the ball consistently on them. You have to sustain 12, 13, 14 play drives against them. I just don't know that that's going to be doable. So I actually agree with you with the line change. I'm going with Georgia here in this one, and it's at Georgia. So that's another hurdle to jump over.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about the fans throwing stuff on the fields to help Texas out this time and overturning calls or anything like that. For those of you who saw that last year.
All right. Florida, Ole Miss. Ole Miss 11.5 point favorites, and this game is at Ole Miss. Ole Miss lost to Florida last year in a game that they should have won, quote unquote. If you looked at the line, they were favored and all that kind of stuff. And Jackson Dart kind of just crapped that one away. Threw like a bunch of interceptions. I remember.
Yeah, it cost him a playoff spot last year.
It was so stupid too watching that game. I can remember watching it in person. Like, why? It was like triple, quadruple coverage downfield, and he's just like, sure.
Yep. That's the Jackson Dart experience for you.
It is. And I'm sure getting hit in the head a bunch this year has not made that any better.
Probably not.
I like Ole Miss. After that,
Same.
Florida, again, we said we don't want to necessarily say quit. It feels a little unfair sometimes, but we're in that ballpark right now.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier and talking about how I do think that Florida could keep this close because the defense has been playing fairly well. But I will take Ole Miss here with the points just on the fact that, again, I think Lane, I've talked about it specifically in this segment throughout the shows, especially when I was doing when I was not on the show live with you guys and doing my videos, that you could argue Ole Miss has been fraudulent the past couple of years and Lane Kiffin has been. But this year, again, they were in it with Georgia until the final drive in that game. They have a chance to make the playoffs. They cannot lose. I think if they lose a game, they will be fine. But overall, I don't think Kiffin wants to push that. They lost last year to Florida, cost them a playoff spot. I think Kiffin's going to come into this one ready to go. So I will take Ole Miss as well.
We had a couple of questions come in here real quick, literally right now. And so I figured we could get to them before we continue on here. Somebody asked Nick Singleton, Jacoby Lane, or Wayshawn Parker this week. They need to pick two. We have them all projected within 0.7 points of each other. This is real tight. Singleton feels like, okay, I think I'm going to trust you a little bit this week. And then he does what he does best and doesn't do anything, which really worries. I think there's downsides to all these. Jacoby Lane against Iowa, there's a real chance that
tough
Iowa
defense.
tough defensive matchup. We were talking about that. And then Wayshawn Parker against Baylor. That's not a tough matchup per se. He just doesn't get volume like you would kind of hope that he maybe should.
If you have to pick two, honestly, I'm probably the one I feel the most comfortable right now is Parker because, again, Singleton is very again, as you mentioned, I know he was good last week, but there's a real shot he runs 6 times for 12 yards this week against Michigan. Michigan State's defense is not good, but with what he's been doing this year, he's been very boomer bust. And Jacoby Lane, we've talked a lot about it. Maava has been prone to turnovers against good defenses, so I would not be surprised if Lane struggles this week as well because of that. So I feel pretty good. Parker's one of them.
Singleton Parker just feels like they're going to get me points.
Yeah, I would lean those two. I mean, again, because the thing is with Michigan State's defense is specifically rush side is not that good. Like I could see Singleton lucking into a long run again this week just on the fact that Michigan State leaves a wide open hole and Singleton just hits it.
I mean, the only reason he hit that long one last week is because the ref got in the way. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
as somebody who played the under or the lower than last week, I was like, oh, great, this guy's in on the fix. He's got Buffalo Wild Wings called in. This ref just stepped in the way.
I mean, so he says he has Lane sitting now. I know, I get it. Iowa doesn't. I mean, but again, it's not even an early game. They're going and they're playing an afternoon game, so I don't even know that you can make the argument of the quote unquote body clock thing. They're playing. I think it's a 3:30 kickoff. So like, I think I know they're going to USC, but again, Maava has sometimes struggled against these tough defense, and Iowa still has a very good defense, a good secondary. So I would lean Singleton and Parker. He says he's got Lane on the bench right now, so I would keep it that way.
That feels right to me. Then Footballer says, sorry to spam over this, but why not play Muhammad from Washington if Smothers is unavailable? If that was in your original prompt and we missed it, I'm sorry. I didn't remember him being in there. I would play I would consider Muhammad over Smothers as well. It's a good matchup.
Yeah. Again, if you know Smothers is out, I have no problem with starting Muhammad there. Either
Smothers
way,
is playing. I think that's potential push. In terms of upside there. So
yeah. I think we had Smothers at 5 and
Muhammad
was like,
I think.
Was he 15? Okay, I'd feel fine with that. There's probably overall less of a point in difference on our rankings on those guys. So yeah, I would feel if you don't even want to worry about the Smothers thing, play Muhammad, good to go.
Yep, agree with that. We were talking Ole Miss, Florida. I mean, I don't have anything to add. Ole Miss, I think wins this one. All right, the game of the week, obviously, because game day's here.
Yeah,
they wouldn't just go to places, right?
And you know what? Real quick, can I just throw this out there? I think this had to be because of Pitt, because they've actually gone to YouTube TV and Disney finally figured out their crap. It's all come together, and it's because of the Pitt Panthers. Pitt fought so hard, and they wanted to be able to watch this stuff on game day. So thank you, Pitt. You've brought everything together, and I'm just going to say right now, Pitt Panthers are going to beat the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Boom. Got it. Heisman Heinschel.
I feel less confident in saying Pitt outright wins today, but 12.5, is the line still at 12.5 here? Again, we pulled it last night. Let's see.
I just went all in. I'm going all in. Sometimes you got to be ballsy. That's how I took a commanding lead on the game.
It's moved to 13.5.
We stopped updating the picks segment here because I was dominating it.
Colin's not here. I can do this.
Yeah.
Pitt's covering that. Pitt's covering that.
HR's calling. I'll block the call for a second.
We need a bleep guy or a blur guy. If you are listening to the show and you can bleep and you can blur, we want you here in the background of our Campus to Canton shows. Pitt to cover. Yeah, I like that. I don't think this game is out of hand.
13.5. I'm 100% with you. I will take Pitt, but I'm calling for it right now. I think Pitt wins. I really do. Look, the secondary is just not that scary. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. He's a freshman, and obviously has not quite been in this situation before. I don't think stuff affects Heinschel that much. Like, he threw an interception against Florida State and then just came right back out the next drive and just ripping it. Like, I just don't. If something happens in this game, it's not like, oh, well, they got a freshman QB and he's just going to fall apart. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think that's kind of what you're banking on if you're playing a 2-touchdown line in this one.
I mean this as respectfully as possible. He's young and dumb. He's like, I'm just out here having fun right now. He's one of those young guys who's just having fun. And realistically, Pitt has a chance to get to the ACC championship and make the playoffs. And I think
some of the stuff that needed to happen is starting to happen here.
It is.
And at first, as it was happening, you were like, no, like, we didn't want Virginia to lose. Like, we kind of needed them to be the matchup. Yeah. And then, like, they might drop a couple. Like, Louisville's lost a bunch now. Miami's lost a couple. Like, Pitt is controlling their own. They play Georgia Tech,
and they've
controls their own whatever. And this game doesn't matter for that, but still.
Yeah, they've set this up perfectly with their head coach coming out here and being like, talking all this crap about how it doesn't even matter. They're not even going to win. All this other stuff. Like, it's on. I think. And then no, I'm not even going to put that in the atmosphere out there in the ether. 13.5. You're giving me 13.5 with how good Pitt's played, and again, how bad Notre Dame's defense has played against teams that can't pass the ball. This secondary is susceptible. They have been beaten. I'm going to take Pitt with the points, but I'm also saying I think Pitt wins the game. I'm picking the Panthers to upset the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, knocking them out of the playoffs. Get out of here. Say they were fraudulent all year.
You and your F word. You and your F
I know,
word.
It's the only F word I can use on this show.
Well, not once we get the bleeper and the blur, then you can
That's
drop.
fair. That's
drop
fair.
the other
Colin,
one
get
too,
on it.
but,
Get on it, dude. Come on.
Mighty Bouch says, if Smothers plays, do I sit Parker or Singleton? Well, does Penn State kick off at noon? I don't think you have the. I don't remember what that schedule looks like off the top of my. And then they play at 3:30, so you would. And then I'm trying to figure out real quick the timing on all of this in terms of you're trying to thread the needle.
Yeah.
The tough part is you might not really know until right before game time in terms of what that's going to look like.
Yeah. So I mean, all of them kick off late. So
it's
Utah. I mean, Utah kicks off at 6, and both of them kick off. So okay. If you're asking between Smothers and Singleton, I'd probably play Smothers over Singleton. I would. I mean, again, you're still risking him being a little bit beat up. It's not a great matchup against Miami either. Again, Singleton has a much easier matchup.
I don't know. I'm a little iffy on Smothers today, which naturally means he's going to catch like 8 passes for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Sometimes you got to risk it to get the biscuit. You got to know that maybe with him being beat up, you've got to understand that there's a chance he just doesn't do anything. But
it's tough. Yeah.
I think you go with the higher upside play. For me, that's Smothers. But if you've got him sitting already for Parker and Singleton, you feel good about that, go with him.
He says, whoever I sit goes off. This is the way. Hey, one of us, man. One of us.
Yeah. we all know that feeling, unfortunately.
Yeah, the real trick is just make your rosters just bad enough that you just are kind of forced into decisions.
Yeah, here's the great thing about that. When you suck like I do in most of my leagues and you're not even in the playoffs, guess what I'm doing? I'm just watching football for fun today. I don't have to worry about anything. Or you just be the number 1 seed like I am in League of the Record. I saw you in here earlier, John Arrington. And I'm also on a bye this week. So again, I just get to watch football today and enjoy it. It's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful life. You should try it sometime. Sucks losing out on a lot of money, but it's fun watching football for fun.
What is money? You can't take it with you anyway, right?
There's no value on money. Exactly. What does it really matter? It's all about the camaraderie of playing fantasy football together.
All right. Well, thank you guys to everybody that tuned in. We actually got us closer to noon than I thought I was going to with the two of us. So shout out to us. Good. Congrats, Matt. Good on us. Good on you. And again, we did not call each other and say what we were going to wear this morning. So don't spread that we did. That did not happen.
But if you want to, I wouldn't hate the rumor.
Are you around? Are you around tonight?
Yes, I will be here for College Fantasy tonight.
All right, Matt and I are going to be on here for College Fantasy tonight, right around 10:30 Eastern. So good luck in all your matchups today, guys. Hopefully it's a celebratory College Fantasy tonight as we all tune in. So thanks, guys. Good luck.